The sword that chose a human Rayan Cole stood in the noisy market of Rust Point Station, a place where metal walls groaned like tired giants and every smell carried a warning. He had lived among criminals and wanderers for too long, studying old artifacts, chasing secrets from dead civilizations, and trying to forget the life he left behind. Today he only wanted silence, but Rust Point never offered such things. While he leaned beside a cracked window and watched cargo ships drift like slow shadows, he did not know his life was seconds away from changing forever. A loud alarm echoed through the station. Docking alert. 3 sharp tones, sharper than usual. People in the market stopped talking, their bodies going still. Rayan followed their eyes to the giant viewport, and what he saw froze the breath in his chest. A huge ship glided out of the dark, its black metal glowing with dull red veins, like molten lava trapped inside armor. It did not reflect light. It swallowed it. The ship looked alive, almost breathing, almost watching everything around it. Rayan had seen war files about such ships, ancient Veldarian vessels once used to fight in the old galactic wars, but none had appeared in this region for decades. When the ship landed, the metal beneath it trembled. The center hatch opened, releasing a wave of hot air. First came a tall woman, almost 2 meters, her skin purple like nightfall, her hair silver and braided with tiny metal rings. She moved with perfect control, as if every step was calculated to protect or kill. She held 2 swords on her back, crossed like an ancient seal. People stepped away without being asked. That alone told Rayan everything. This was not a simple visitor. This was a warrior from a royal bloodline. But beside her walked a small alien girl, lively, full of fast energy, her silver hair loose and messy, her bright golden eyes exploring everything with wonder. She touched machines, smelled spices, pointed at strange aliens, and asked questions faster than her guardian could stop her. Rayan almost smiled. She was the complete opposite of the woman beside her. The girl's gaze moved around like a scanning beam, and then stopped. She stared at Rayan, her head tilting slightly, and before anyone could understand why, she walked straight toward him with no hesitation, as if she knew him. "You," she said softly, "you have the eyes of someone who sees the truth." Rayan blinked. "Me? I'm just a wanderer." "No," she whispered. "You're something else." The tall warrior approached quickly and placed a protective hand on the girl's shoulder, but the girl gently slipped out of her grip. She reached into a long cloth bag she was carrying. The guardian stiffened. "Marika, we must not—" But the girl ignored her. She opened the cloth and revealed something wrapped with care and fear. Slowly she pulled the fabric away. Inside was a sword unlike any Rayan had seen. Its blade looked like crystal carved from starlight, smooth and ancient, but completely dark, as if the light inside it had died long ago. Strange symbols ran across the metal, glowing faintly like sleeping embers. Rayan, despite himself, stepped closer. The sword gave off a soft warmth, almost like breath. Marika held it out to him. "This belonged to my ancestors," she whispered. "It has been silent for 5,000 years. It never shines. It never wakes. But when I saw you, something told me to show it to you." Rayan raised his hand slightly. "I shouldn't touch that. Your guardian looks like she'll cut my head off." The warrior narrowed her eyes. "If he harms you, I will." Marika smiled as if that was normal. She lifted the sword a little higher. "Please, just try." Rayan hesitated, but something inside him, something ancient and quiet, pulled him forward. His fingers touched the cold crystal, and the universe changed. A burst of light exploded from the blade, bright and blue and alive, filling the station corridor. People screamed and shielded their eyes. The symbols across the sword's surface burned brighter than stars, pouring out waves of energy that shook the air. Rayan staggered back, but the sword held onto him as if it recognized him. The warrior froze, her mouth slightly open. "Impossible," she whispered. Marika stared at him with awe. "It chose you," she said. "The sword chose you." Rayan's heart hammered. "What do you mean chose me?" "This weapon only awakens for the blood of the first kings," the warrior said, stepping forward with a trembling voice. "Our royal line, our oldest ancestors. No human has ever." Rayan looked at the glowing sword in horror. I'm not a king. I'm nobody. Marika touched the blade gently. Not to the sword. To the sword. You are someone. Before Rayan could speak, the warrior drew her own blade and pointed it at his throat. Human, she said coldly. How did you awaken the Blade of Worlds? Rayan swallowed hard. Trapped between the furious guardian and the glowing ancient weapon, now pulsing in his hand like a beating heart. He had no answer, and the sword did not stop shining. The truth buried in human blood. The glowing sword hummed in Rayan's hand like a living creature trying to speak. Its blue light reflected off the metal walls of Rust Point Station, turning everything into shifting shades of fire and ice. People stared from a distance, whispering in fear and excitement, unsure whether they were witnessing a miracle or the beginning of a disaster. Rayan felt his pulse matching the blade's rhythm, each beat sending a strange warmth through his arm, up to his shoulder, and finally settling deep inside his chest. It was as if the sword had opened a door in him, a door he never knew existed. Rema, the tall Veldarian warrior, kept her blade pointed at his neck, but even she seemed shaken. Her hand trembled, not from fear of him, but from something older, something written in the legends of her people. She spoke with a controlled voice, but Rayan could hear the tension beneath it. This weapon does not lie. It chooses only one bloodline. The ancient heirs, the first kings, the protectors of our world. Human, explain yourself, now. Rayan let out a slow breath. I don't know how. I've never seen this sword before. I'm not part of any royal bloodline. I'm just an artifact tracker, a man who studies dead things. Marika stepped forward, pushing Rema's blade aside with a surprising boldness. Stop threatening him. Can't you see? The sword didn't react to me. It reacted to him. That means something. Something important. Her golden eyes glowed with curiosity and excitement, as if she had just uncovered the biggest secret in the galaxy. Rema frowned but lowered her weapon. Whether we like it or not, we must take him with us. The Queen must decide what is to be done with a human who carries the light of our ancestors. Without waiting for permission, she grabbed Rayan's arm with her armored hand. Her strength was incredible. He had no chance of breaking free. Hey, careful, Rayan said. I didn't ask for any of this. Marika walked beside him, holding the cloth that once wrapped the sword. Maybe you didn't ask, she said softly. But the sword did. It woke up for you. Rema pulled him toward the massive black ship, its hull pulsing like the heartbeat of some ancient beast. The moment they crossed the threshold, the doors sealed behind them with a hiss, and Rayan felt the temperature drop. The air was cleaner, colder, and filled with the faint scent of burning metal. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, shifting and moving like they were alive. They entered a large chamber shaped like a circle, with sharp angles and deep shadows. Alien guards stood around the room, all of them staring at Rayan as if he were some kind of threat, or a prophecy coming true. Rema pushed him into the center and signaled the guards to step back. Hold the sword forward, she ordered. Rayan hesitated. Why? To test you. He lifted the blade. The moment he did, the glowing symbols across the chamber brightened, reacting to the sword's energy. One by one, ancient holograms flickered into existence, figures made of light, tall and powerful, holding the same sword he carried. Their faces were not Veldarian, they were human. Rayan staggered. What? What am I looking at? Rema stepped beside him, her voice softer now, almost reverent. The lost race of humans, she said. Not the humans who live now, but the humans who walked the stars thousands of years ago. The First Empire. They fought beside us. They protected us. And then, they vanished. Marika moved closer, her eyes wide. The sword holds their memories. It doesn't show anything unless the right blood touches it. But I'm just a normal man, Rayan protested. I'm not a warrior. I'm not some chosen one. Rema shook her head. Normal humans cannot awaken this blade. The ancient ones spoke of a prophecy. When the darkness rises, the lost heir will rise with it. The null swarm, The enemy that destroyed the old empire has returned to the galaxy. Our outposts have gone silent. Ships are disappearing. And now, the sword awakens. Rayan's stomach tightened. You think I'm part of this prophecy? I think the sword believes you are, Rema replied. Before he could respond, the chamber lights flickered violently. A siren screamed through the ship, cold and sharp. Alien guards rushed to their stations. Rema's face turned deadly serious. We're under attack, she said. The Null Swarm. They followed us. Marika grabbed Rayan's sleeve. They want the sword, she whispered. They always wanted the sword. The ship shook as something slammed into its hull. Rayan felt the sword vibrate, its light darkening for a moment, as if reacting to a presence outside. Rema pushed Marika behind her and drew her own twin swords. Rayan Cole, she said without looking at him, you awakened a weapon meant to fight an ancient evil. If the swarm captures you, they will destroy what is left of this galaxy. The lights dimmed to red. The walls trembled again. And then, a sharp metallic screech came from the hallway, getting closer, louder, deeper, until the door to the chamber twisted inward like melting steel. A creature of swirling black mist and shifting metal limbs forced its way in, its glowing red eyes locking onto Rayan instantly. It pointed one long claw at him. Found, it hissed in a broken, echoing voice. The heir must die. The prophecy of the burning stars. The creature that broke through the chamber door did not walk. It flowed. Its body shifted like liquid shadow mixed with broken metal. Every movement produced a low grinding sound, as if rusted gears were turning somewhere inside its darkness. Two red eyes glowed from the center of its formless head, sharp like burning coals in a dying fire. The air around it cooled instantly, filling the room with a cold that stabbed the skin like needles. Even the Veldarian guards, trained to face monsters from forgotten galaxies, stepped back with fear in their eyes. Rayan's heart pounded in his throat. The glowing sword in his hand trembled as if waking up again, sensing the creature's presence. Thin blue sparks crawled across the blade, lighting the symbols along its surface. For the first time since touching it, Rayan felt the sword was not simply reacting to him, it was preparing him. The creature pointed its long, razor-shaped limb directly at him. Heir of light, it hissed, its voice broken like 1,000 whispering echoes trapped inside a metal box. You will end. The galaxy will fall. Rema reacted first. She stepped in front of Rayan, her twin swords glowing with a silver fire. Her stance was steady, sharp, deadly. You will not touch the child, nor the human. The creature tilted its head, the motion unnatural, like watching a puppet pulled by the wrong strings. You are already dead. You just do not know yet. With a sudden lunge faster than gravity should allow, the creature attacked. Rema intercepted with both blades, sparks flying in every direction as metal met shadow. The impact shook the chamber. Guards rushed in, firing plasma bursts at the monster, but the shots passed through like light through smoke. The creature ignored them. Its attention remained locked on Rayan. Marika grabbed Rayan's hand, her voice shaky but determined. We need to move, now! Rayan stared at the creature. What is that thing? The Null Swarm, she said, pulling him toward the side exit. A living nightmare from the oldest wars. They devour worlds. They hunt the sword. They hunt anyone connected to it. Rema shouted from behind them. Go! Protect the princess! Her voice was urgent, and for the first time, Rayan heard fear inside it. The two ran down a curved hallway filled with pulsing lights and shaking metal. The ship shuddered again as more enemies struck its hull. The alarm screamed louder, turning the corridors red. Rayan barely kept his balance as the blade in his hand flickered with bright light, reacting to the danger with rising heat. They reached a circular chamber where a glowing console sat in the center, like a beating heart. Marika pressed her hands against it. Ancient Veldarian symbols lit up under her touch, recognizing her royal blood. A hologram burst to life above the console. Giant star maps, swirling galaxies, ancient ruins, gates, and something else. A shape made of fire and shadow. A human silhouette holding the same sword Rayan carried. He stared in disbelief. Who is that? Marika swallowed. Our ancestors called him the first guardian, A human king who fought the Null Swarm thousands of years ago. Rayan shook his head. A human? We were never that powerful. Our species wasn't even part of the galaxy back then. Marika looked up at him with slow, careful sadness. Your people forgot their own history. They were not always small, not always weak. The hologram zoomed into the silhouette. A voice echoed from the projection, deep, ancient, resonant. The blade awakens for the blood that stood against the dark. The lost heir will rise when the swarm returns. Rayan stepped back, his voice low. No, this is crazy. I'm no heir. I don't have royal blood. I'm just a nobody. Marika shook her head. The sword would not choose wrong. You are connected to the first humans. Somehow, somewhere in your blood, their legacy sleeps. Before they could say more, the door behind them screeched open. Rema stumbled inside. Her armor cracked, her face marked by dark burns. There were more of them, she hissed. They are flooding the ship. She pointed at Rayan. Activate the sword. You must defend the princess. Rayan raised the blade. It glowed, but only faintly. He tried to focus, tried to remember how it felt moments ago when it exploded with light. But fear drowned every thought. I can't, he whispered. I don't know how. Rema pushed him aside, blocking another attack as more shadow creatures spilled through the doorway. Their red eyes all focused on Rayan. Marika stepped in front of him, her small body shaking, her voice breaking. Please, the sword believed in you. You must believe too. The creatures began to advance. Their metal claws clicked against the ground, their shadows stretching like smoke, reaching for its prey. Then, a flash of blue light erupted from the sword, but instead of spreading outward, it shot inward into Rayan's mind. A vision formed, brief but powerful. He saw flames. He saw falling stars. He saw armies of humans standing with Veldarians. And he saw one figure, someone who looked just like him, lifting the sword toward the sky as a blast of light pushed back the darkness. Rayan snapped back to reality, gasping. His eyes met Marika's. The prophecy, he whispered. It wasn't a story, it's a warning. The hallway shook again, metal bending under the swarm's attack. Rema shouted, Rayan, now! And for the first time, Rayan lifted the sword not with fear, but with purpose. The blade responded instantly. Its light roared to life, bright and fierce, filling the chamber with a blaze that made the shadows shrink back in pain. The first true awakening had begun. The first awakening. The chamber shook as if the entire ship were crying out in fear. Sparks rained from the ceiling, alarms screamed with a desperate rhythm, and the cold darkness of the Null Swarm creatures pressed closer from every shadow. But in the center of all that chaos stood Rayan Cole, gripping the ancient sword that now blazed with a furious blue light. The creatures hissed and recoiled, their smoky bodies twitching as the sword's glow touched them, like fire touching dry leaves. Rayan felt something awakening inside him, something old, powerful, and terrifying. His breath quickened as the sword's warmth spread through his arm, into his chest and deeper, as if it were searching for memories hidden in his blood. For a moment, the world around him faded. He saw flashes of ancient battles, humans in shining armor, Veldarian allies fighting beside them, and a great burning sky filled with shadows. He heard voices calling his name, not his current name, but a name older than time. The sword pulsed again, snapping him back to reality just as a Null Swarm creature lunged toward them. Rema met the creature mid-air, her twin swords slicing through its body. The creature screamed with a sound like broken glass and pulled itself back together. Its form twisted and reshaped, sharper and more deadly than before. Rema staggered backward, her armor cracked, her breaths uneven. Rayan! She shouted without looking at him. Your sword is the only thing they fear. Fight! I don't know how to use it, he shouted back, the blade flickering in his hand. Marika stood behind him, clutching his sleeve. Her small body trembled, but her voice held something steady. The sword remembers, she whispered. You don't have to know. It will guide you. Another creature broke through the side wall, its limbs stretching into blades. It rushed at Rayan with terrifying speed. Rayan lifted the sword without thinking, and suddenly his body moved on its own. His feet shifted into a stance he had never learned. His arms swung in a perfect arc, and the sword released a wave of blue energy that split the creature into two flaming halves. The burned remains evaporated into smoke. Rayan froze. I didn't do that. Rema's eyes widened. Your ancestors did. More swarm creatures swarmed toward them, their shadows filling every corner of the chamber. Rayan stepped forward again, feeling the sword pull him like a magnet toward danger. His body responded in ways he couldn't explain. Dodging attacks he hadn't seen, striking before the enemies moved, blocking with impossible precision. Each movement felt familiar, like remembering a dream he had lived 1,000 times. The sword hummed with approval, its light growing brighter with every strike. The creatures hissed and shrank back, terrified of the ancient weapon that once destroyed their kind. Rayan became a blur of blue fire and motion, cutting through the shadows with the grace of a warrior born from another age. But the attack was endless. For every creature destroyed, two more slithered through the walls. Rema fought beside him, her breaths heavy, her armor scorched. Marika stayed near the console, sending emergency signals across the ship, while whispering something in the old royal language. Prayers her grandmother had taught her. A sudden explosion flung them all against the walls. Smoke filled the chamber, and through it stepped a much larger creature, a commander of the Null Swarm, its body towering, its limbs razor-thin but deadly. Its voice echoed through the entire ship. The heir awakens. The last light must die. Rema dragged herself up, gripping her swords even though her legs shook. Stay behind me, princess, she whispered, planting her feet. The commander moved with terrifying silence, approaching Rayan with a slow, confident glide. Rayan raised the sword, but doubt crept into his voice. I can't beat that thing. Marika stepped close to him. You don't have to beat it alone. Before Rayan could ask what she meant, she touched the sword's blade gently with her fingertips. A small spark of gold leapt from her hand into the sword, weaving with its blue glow. The blade pulsed brighter, sensing her royal blood, combining it with Rayan's awakened lineage. The chamber lights flickered, dimmed, then exploded in brightness. The commander staggered. No! The bond! It returns! Rayan felt the surge inside him. Two bloodlines, ancient allies, uniting again after thousands of years. The sword expanded into a radiant shape, its edges glowing with both gold and blue fire. Rema stared in awe. The Alliance blade. It has not awakened since the First War. The commander lunged with terrifying force, but Rayan met its attack head-on. The clash tore through the chamber like thunder. Shadows screamed, metal cracked, and Rayan felt power, real power, surging through his veins. Guided by the sword's old memory and Marika's courage, he unleashed a strike that sent the commander crashing into the far wall. The creature roared in agony. This is not possible! Rayan stepped forward, the sword blazing. It is! With a final swing, he unleashed a burst of energy so bright it carved a line of light across the room. The commander shattered into dust, consumed by ancient fire. Silence fell. Breathing heavily, Rayan lowered the sword. Marika stared at him with wide, shining eyes. Rema approached him, her expression a mix of respect and disbelief. You are no ordinary human, she said quietly. The prophecy lives through you. Rayan looked down at the sword glowing in his hand. I didn't choose this. Rema shook her head. No, the sword chose you. And deep within the blade, a whisper echoed in Rayan's mind, older than time, gentle yet commanding. Find the vault. The truth waits beneath the burning stars, the vault of the first humans. The ship limped through hyperspace like a wounded beast trying to outrun death. Hull plates were dented inward. Lights flickered in wounded colors, and the deep humming that once filled the corridors had become a weak trembling. Rema stood tall despite her bruised armor, guiding Marika and Rayan toward the command deck, her face tight with worry. Even a royal Veldarian warship had limits, and the Null Swarm had pushed every single one of them. Rayan carried the ancient sword, its light dimmer now, but still alive. Quiet, watchful, like an eye that never truly closed. The whisper he heard earlier still echoed in his mind, soft but urgent. Find the vault. A place forgotten by humans, remembered only by legends, whispered among stars. When they reached the deck, the star map glowed weakly above the table at the center. Marika placed her palm on the command node, and the map expanded, showing thousands of stars, millions of paths, all twisting into rivers of light. "Where is the vault?" Rayan asked. Marika frowned. "The sword showed us the burning stars, but there are many systems with star clusters that shine that way." Rayan lifted the sword slightly. The blade hummed, reacting to the star map. A line of blue light extended from it, pointing across the map like a compass needle. It settled on a dying system at the edge of the galaxy. Its central star cracked with red fissures, its planets long dead. Rema inhaled sharply. "That place is cursed. No ship goes there. The ancient war ended in that system. Billions died." Rayan tightened his grip. "Then that's where the truth is." The ship jumped again, following the sword's guidance. As they neared the dying system, the star outside crackled like a wounded heart bleeding fire into the void. The planet below was silent, covered in black stone, deep chasms and endless ruins swallowed by dust. They landed in a barren valley where wind carried the faint whisper of a world that once lived. The ground was cracked like old bones, and strange monoliths rose from the earth, each carved with symbols that matched the ones on the sword. "This is the birthplace of the First Empire," Marika murmured, bending to touch the dry soil. "This is where humans stood against the darkness." Rayan felt something shift. Goosebumps rose along his arms as an old pulse vibrated beneath the ground. It was subtle, like a heartbeat buried under stone. The sword responded with a warm glow. It guided him forward toward a massive door carved into a cliffside. The door was sealed with metallic vines shaped like human hands reaching skyward. Rema frowned. "No technology from our time can open this." Rayan stepped closer. The sword hummed gently, as if greeting an old home. When he raised it toward the door, the vines shifted, twisting away like living metal. A deep grinding sound followed as the door slowly opened, revealing a chamber swallowed by darkness. Inside, lights flickered to life, not from electricity, but from tiny crystals embedded in the walls that glowed with soft blue light. The chamber was enormous, with ancient murals stretching across every surface. Human warriors stood in shining armor beside Veldarian allies. Below them, the Null swarm covered whole planets like a storm of living shadow. Marika whispered, "This is our shared history. We were not enemies once. We were brothers." Rayan approached the largest mural. At the center stood a tall human king holding the same sword he now carried. His face was calm, determined, carved with the weight of protecting millions. The mural looked alive, as if the stone itself remembered that moment. Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Rema raised her blades instantly. "Something is here with us." But it wasn't the swarm. The tremor came from beneath the mural. Rayan knelt and placed his hand against the cold stone. The sword brightened, its energy flowing into the ground. The mural split open, revealing a descending stairway leading into deeper darkness. At the bottom was a single pedestal, holding an object wrapped in silver cloth. Rayan approached it slowly, feeling the air grow heavy with ancient power. Marika held her breath. Rema stayed alert, sensing danger she could not see. Rayan pulled the cloth away. A small sphere lay on the pedestal, smooth, metallic, covered in tiny runes that looked like constellations. The moment the sphere sensed Rayan's presence, it opened like a blooming flower, projecting a hologram of the ancient king. The king's voice was deep and filled with centuries of sorrow. "If you are seeing this, our empire has fallen. The swarm has returned. They hunger for the sword's light, and only you, our lost heir, can stop them." Rayan felt cold. "Lost heir? How? I don't understand." The projection continued. "We placed the last of our bloodlines among the stars. We hid our descendants on young worlds, including Earth. Your people forgot us, but we never forgot you." Marika's eyes widened. "You are the last descendant of the First Empire." Rema stepped forward, her face drawn with respect. "The galaxy will turn to you for leadership. Before Rayan could breathe, the ground above them erupted with a thunderous scream. The entire chamber shook violently. Marika gasped. They found us. The null swarm had followed them to the vault. The lion had come to kill the heir. Rayan gripped the sword tightly as its light surged again. Brighter, fiercer, alive. The war for the galaxy had just begun. The human who stood between stars. The vault shook like a dying planet taking its last breath. Dust rained from the carved ceiling, ancient murals cracked down the center, and distant explosions echoed through the stone tunnels. The null swarm had arrived in full force. Their screeching voices and metallic growls crawled through the walls, growing louder with every second. Rayan stared at the glowing sword in his hand, its light now blazing like a newborn star. The sphere's hologram flickered beside him, repeating the ancient king's final warning. The swarm cannot be defeated by fear, only unity, and the heir can end their hunger. Rema pulled Marika behind her, her arms trembling, but her eyes fierce. We must move. The swarm will overrun this chamber. But the tunnel leading out of the vault exploded inward. A wave of shadow and broken metal surged through, forming dozens of twisted creatures. Red eyes glowed in the darkness, like small suns ready to burn everything alive. Marika gasped and grabbed Rayan's arm. They followed your light. They want you. They want the sword. Rayan swallowed hard. Then they're not leaving with either. He stepped forward, heart shaking but steady, and the sword responded instantly. Its blue and gold flames burst outward like wings, illuminating the entire vault. The creatures screamed, recoiling from the light, but a deeper voice echoed through them, a single mind controlling everything. Heir of fire, you cannot escape. You cannot win. The swarm queen appeared at the entrance, taller than the others, her form shifting like a living storm. Her red eyes burned brighter than the dying sun outside. Shadows wrapped around her like a shroud. Rema whispered with pure dread, the queen, the destroyer of worlds. The queen glided forward, her voice like cold fire. The first humans sealed us once, but they died. Their empire fell. You are alone. You will fall too. Rayan gripped the sword tighter. Maybe I am alone, but I won't run. A deep silence filled the vault, heavy as stone. Then the queen lunged. The ground split under her impact. Rema pushed Marika away, blocking the queen's first strike with both blades, but the force threw her across the chamber. She crashed into a pillar and fell to one knee, gasping. Rayan rushed to stand between Marika and the queen. The sword exploded with energy, sending a shockwave that pushed back dozens of smaller swarm creatures. The queen hissed, her shadows twisting like angry smoke. You carry the light, she snarled, then burn with it. She spread her limbs and a wave of shadow slammed toward him. Rayan raised the sword. Light met darkness, and the collision cracked the ground beneath them. The vault boomed like thunder trapped underground. Rayan staggered under the force, but the sword anchored him, its power flowing through him like a river of living fire. Marika stood behind him, hands shaking, but eyes fearless. You're not alone, she whispered. My blood and your blood. They woke the sword together. Rayan felt her words settle inside him, grounding him. The sword pulsed, gold mixing with blue, brighter than before. It was no longer just the weapon of ancient kings. It was a bridge, between human and Veldarian, between past and future. The queen roared and leapt again, her claws stretching like curved blades. Rayan moved with impossible speed. He ducked her strike, twisted, and slashed across her chest. Light erupted from the wound, burning through her smoke-like body. The queen screamed, shaking the entire vault. You dare wound me? Rayan stood tall, breaths heavy. I dare. The queen surged with anger, summoning a storm of dark tendrils. They filled the chamber, ready to crush everyone. Rema crawled forward, trying to defend Marika again, but she was too weak. Marika grabbed Rayan's arm. Use the ancient technique, she begged. The one from the prophecy, the Starheart Strike. I saw it in the murals. Humans used it to seal the queen before. Rayan stared at the sword. The blade hummed as if confirming her words. Images flashed in his mind. An ancient king lifting the sword to the sky, channeling the light of 1,000 stars through his body. But using it came with a cost. Rayan realized what the murals hadn't said. The technique demanded everything: strength, spirit, life. He met Marika's eyes. If I use it, I might not survive. Tears welled in her golden eyes. But if you don't, no one will. The tendrils of shadow rushed forward. The queen screamed, "Die, lost heir!" Rayan closed his eyes for a single breath, then raised the sword to the sky. The blade answered. A beam of pure white fire burst upward, blasting through the vault ceiling, shooting into the sky like a pillar connecting heaven and earth. The ground shook violently. The cracks in the dying star above glowed brighter, reacting to the weapon's ancient energy. Rayan felt the light fill him, burn him, become him. He shouted, "Well, Starheart, strike!" The sword released a blast so powerful that the entire valley erupted. Shadows vaporized instantly. The queen let out a final scream before the light erased her completely, her body turning into drifting ash, swallowed by the flames. Silence. When the light faded, Rayan collapsed. Marika ran to him, shaking his shoulders. "Rayan, wake up, please!" His eyes opened slowly. He was alive, barely, but alive. The sword dimmed gently like a candle burning low after giving everything. Rema stood beside them, placing a hand on Marika's shoulder. "He saved us. He saved the galaxy." Marika smiled through tears. "I told you, the sword chose him." Rayan looked at the rising sun outside the broken vault. "No," he whispered softly, "we chose each other." Above them, the light of a new dawn touched the ancient ruins, and somewhere deep within the sword a voice whispered, "The heir has risen. The stars are safe, for now."